Hello and welcome. For the astute amongst you, you may have noticed my absence on Twitch this week. Well, now I can reveal exactly where I was. I was a very lucky boy and went on a wee trip to LA in the States to play Star Wars Jedi Survivor early. I also spent a day at Disneyland and had a ruddy lovely time feeling all Star Warsy. I met Cal Kestis at a little drinks and finger food get together, which some might call a party, but me and my new, definitely best friend Cameron Monaghan wouldn't call it that. A very big thanks to EA for the invitation. They paid for the whole trip, but have not formally sponsored this video. No money has changed hands, nor is it a requirement of my attendance at the event to have created this video or provide any coverage. So without further ado, let's get into my thoughts. I played Star Wars Jedi Survivor for about 3 to 4 hours. We were dropped into the game not long from the start, but a little ways in. There was some main story to munch through, some side quests, as well as lots of exploration to do. I was hoping to be able to provide personally captured gameplay footage, but sadly this wasn't possible at the event, and so the footage you're seeing is B-roll provided by Respawn, which is going to basically be a backdrop to my musings and thoughts on what I've played. This video will be spoiler free, so I'm not going to be going deep into the story I've played or the characters. I can tell you the writing in the story and the overall production of the cutscenes kept me engaged despite having missed the first opening hours of the game. One of my largest criticisms from the first game is that I didn't care much for the crew of the Mantis by the end of the game, because perhaps we lacked moments and story that should have built that bond. From the slice that I saw, that may well change this time around. Don't take that as gospel, as I haven't played the entire game yet, but I'm optimistic about the ease at which I enjoyed meeting new characters, and the humour felt nice when it was dropped in here and there. It may have even induced an audible chuckle at times. The core takeaway for me from what I played was that in this game we get a home base, so to speak. Rambler's Reach, a little town that seems to have secrets and unlockables of its own, but that is also home to a cantina owned by Grease. In the cantina I saw a fish tank with 0 out of something like 10 or 15 total fish found, a rooftop garden where you can plant seeds, though I'm not sure if this is purely cosmetic or if those seeds will grow and provide useful items down the line, and there's also a DJ droid with unlockable music tracks for the bar. The town is home to some new characters, all of which I enjoyed meeting, and it seems that as you play through the game, you might be able to send new friends and allies you meet or recruit home to Rambler's Reach, and maybe expand your array of available shops and activities there. I also found a few buildings which I couldn't get into, but it looked like once I'd unlocked certain abilities, there might be chests or secrets inside. The dialogue flowed well in cutscenes, and as before, in the previous game, there were often little funny conversations to overhear if you didn't barrel headlong into every group of enemies you found.
Then I won't see the scenery. Now that's a dilemma.
Dilemma solved.
Notable new characters I enjoyed included a weird frog lad called Turgle, which I fully demand a playable DLC for. A smooth talking bartender droid called Monk. Well, you know, some letters and numbers that kind of spell the word monk, and that's why everybody calls it him. Oh, and Doma, some sort of, I don't know, space hippopotamus? She runs a cosmetic shop where you can buy hairstyles and outfits for Cal. And overall, there's lots of weird and wonderful, unique and memorable, very Star Warsy people to meet within this little township. Cal, BD1 and your Saber are highly customizable. Your outfit has 5 or 6 pieces to it, including beards and hairstyles. The Saber on the workbench has many different parts as before, although the Kyber crystals for the colour of the Saber seem to all be unlocked from the get-go. I'm not sure if this was just for the build that we were playing, or if that's kind of standard now. BD1 also had a ton of interchangeable parts, but it didn't seem that any of these kind of augment his abilities, or your Sabers for that matter. It seems to all be cosmetic. The combat was satisfying, very similar to the previous game and what I already knew, but also new and different at the same time. In this game, you have multiple stances with which to switch between during combat, but only 2 can be active at a time. Basically, you equip your 2 favourite stances, level up their skill trees, and then mix and match as you flow through the combat based on what enemy you're coming up against. We had 3 unlocked to play with, a single saber, dual sabers, and a twin-linked Darth Maul-style double-ended saber. After the gameplay session, they did show a combat preview from the lead combat director of the game, who showed off a single saber and pistol setup, as well as a kind of Kylo Ren crossguard saber. The blade looked longer than a normal saber, but the animations were kind of slow and lumbering, so I'm guessing, you know, slow wind up but heavy damage. There is also an ultimate kind of bar that charges that enables you to force freeze time. Comboed with, you know, like a force move to push a group of enemies into the air, and then using the blaster pistol to do a kind of Overwatch High Noon style finisher on them all, it looked pretty fun. There was quite the variety of creatures and enemies. Some raiders called the Bedlam Raiders. Some droids that had been reprogrammed by those raiders. Stormtroopers, and all manner of kind of giant creatures that basically just want to eat or smash your face off that inhabit the planet. Some of the animations feature hot amounts of dismemberment, most notably for me when fighting a Mogu, basically a brown wampa. It has an animation where it grabs you by the legs, and whilst you're dangling you can button bash to escape, and as you escape you casually lop off his arm. It does appear that the dismemberment is somewhat exclusive to, say, finishing animations or preordained animations, rather than being dynamic from Saber strikes. You can, of course, use force push, pull, grab abilities within the combat, which gives you plenty of personality to throw into just how you'd like to make Cal dispatch his enemies. Force confusion can be used to make enemies fight one another, or temporarily tame a creature so that it'll rampage through some stormtroopers for you. Finally, as a cherry on the cake to combat, there are perks that you can unlock and equip. And I can see how these would be used to further augment a playstyle or particular build. I loved the exploration in the first game, and the second one hasn't let me down yet. The environment around Rambler's Reach feels huge, and also there's lots of secret passages, destroyable walls, and unlockable paths and shortcuts, as well as a little Jawa settlement. I'm not sure on the total numbers of planets or environments that we can explore in Jedi Survivor, but I'd hazard a guess that, you know, from glancing at the menus, there might be as many, if not more, than the first game. Cal also gets a grappling hook with specific points you're able to grapple to. You can force pull ropes towards you when you're swinging, which was a lovely touch as I didn't once accidentally fall to my death because I missed a rope swing. The wall running and parkour style moving across climbs and hanging points is very fluid. Almost too fluid at times, as Cal shimmies around a section of pipes or grates like a spider monkey who's late for his dinner. That said, I would rather it be quick and rapid than slow and sluggish, so overall I enjoy it. We also don't have to traverse the lands alone. Cal can now use the Force to tame Nikos, which are basically giant space chickens, very akin to a chocobo from the Final Fantasy series. This acts as a mount, and you can also pet certain fauna, such as the boglings, and the belters are kind of like a big reptile, like birds, and they let you grab their feet so you can glide great distances with them. The Nikos, or Nekos, they can actually run up kind of slopes that you otherwise would slide down as well. So they do enable you to do some traversal that you can't do on your own. And I also wonder what other animals are we going to be able to kind of tame and mount and use as mounts in the future. There was a ton of puzzles and collectibles to find throughout the open world I played in. And I'm sure there are plenty I didn't find even within, you know, the 3 to 4 hours of the game and just a small area that I was exploring. I saw one person found a room with a rancor inside, which I didn't find, complete with a bone that you could force push into his gob for a nice little stun animation. I didn't engage in any side quests because time was limited and there was a main story I had to munch down. I did bump into quite a few NPCs who certainly tried their best to entice me off the main path though, so there's plenty to do.
Wish we could help.
Many of the collectibles seem to act as currency in the various shops, so there is a point to, you know, going out and finding them. I hadn't unlocked every shop, so there were some collectibles that I couldn't do anything with, but one of the shops offered perks to unlock, so exploring certainly rewards your gameplay. There's also a set of Jedi chamber puzzles dotted around, which rewards you with a Force tier, that when you use it grants max HP up, Force max up, or a kind of a perk on completion. I completed 3 of these, and they did seem somewhat similar in gameplay, but in the small slice that I'd played, I can't know how much more difficult or varied they'll become. As with most games in this style, surely the puzzle rooms, you know, there'll be more mechanics introduced over time with which you need to use to solve the room. Graphically, the game looked very nice, as you can see from the videos. I did notice some frame hitches here and there, which I have to mention, but we were playing in 4K with everything on Epic and also on AMD graphics cards. Hopefully that'll all be ironed out before the launch, but I'm sure my 4090 will be able to gobble it down like Chewie gobbles down roast porks. I would reveal more about the characters I met in the main story, but I promised no spoilers. And it's not long to wait until the game launches at the end of April, so keep your pants on and be patient. Unfortunately, I've reached the end of my notes I made from my play session, but overall, I think I'd give it Star Wars out of Star Wars. I'm very excited to play the game when it comes out. Thanks again to EA for the invite, thank you for watching, and goodbye!